Hi, welcome back. Well, I'm here in the studio with Joel McKerrow.
Good to be here.
And his mysterious few are so mysterious that they're not even here.
They've disappeared on me. I don't know. I don't know where they went.
So you were here a couple of years ago, Joel, when you were a solo artist as a performance poet.
Yep.
But now you do have a band, the Mysterious Few.
Yes.
Tell us about that transition and what's going on there.
Yeah, well, it's been a great transition. Poetry's been my thing for many years, and I still love doing poetry just by itself, straight a cappella. But we kind of started doing some work together, bringing music with my poetry a few years ago, and there was something about it that changed the way that I was doing poetry, I think in a really good way.
Wait, like more rhythmic?
Yeah, more rhythmic, changed how I was doing my rhythms, how I was expressing myself, kind of giving me something to kind of sit back into the music.
So someone can do a bit of a solo while you can just let that thought sink in for a while,
yeah,
and then you come back, hit him.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and we just loved doing it together. Yeah. So me and a guy named I'll reveal who the Mysterious Few are.
Oh, okay.
A guy named Josh Furmeister and Rochelle Boer, and two others as well. I'll keep them mysterious.
Okay.
But we just kind of started playing together and really gelled, and the music added something to the poetry. Okay. We were finding people were quite moved by it. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, before we go any further, rather than talking about it, let's just take a quick look at one of your clips.
Sure.
Check this out.
To the burdened shoulders, to the clipped wings, and to those who have never tried again, to the artist and to those who have forgotten that they are so, we say, welcome home.
Well, that does certainly fit into the category of really creative, and you're really upholding artists through that, like trying to encourage them to, find their gift and express it. That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah.
What other sort of themes are you exploring through your poetry and music? Yeah,
there's a whole bunch of ones within this new album that we've been creating over the last few months. Kind of a lot focused around story, around the power of story to both change us as individuals and also as a society, kind of the big framing stories of our society that we so easily just accept without kind of looking at or critiquing or challenging. So kind of the power of story and the power of poetry to actually speak into those things, and to challenge some of the things that we just accept as norms, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, such as? Give me some examples.
Within our society, I think a huge one would simply be kind of the Western dream mentality, that we can live comfortably rich, sort of comfortable, wealthy lives and not think that it's affecting other people around the world.
Materialism, consumerism.
Those kind of isms, ideas.
And I guess the way we like to export our poverty to another country.
Yeah, absolutely. That we don't even consider when we buy and purchase something at the store who's gone into making this thing, who's gone into producing, extracting things from the ground and producing it, and like all that lineup we just kind of pick it up, and
that one's the cheapest.
Yeah, we often go for the cheapest rather than kind of critiquing and thinking about this stuff. So a bunch of the kind of things revolve around that, around story and challenging and critiquing, but also kind of the personal journey and going on the journey of looking at some of I think the wounds and the painful times in our lives, and in some ways welcoming them in a strange way, letting them change us and affect us. One of the poems is called "Waiting for the Storm to Break." It's kind of this idea that's in those storm times of our lives, that's when we actually have the most growth. When we actually come to discover who we are, when we have those self-confrontational moments.
Sort of reminds me of, the Apostle Paul, when Jesus said to him, "My power is made perfect in your weakness."
That's right.
There's a real sort of paradox there. Is there a sort of a theology or a biblical basis for some of what you do? Do you see connections there?
Oh, absolutely. My creativity and my spirituality, I think, are really intertwined. And I find I do a bunch of poetry within the Christian scene, but I do a lot of it. I'm kind of just part of the poetry scene around Australia, which there is actually a poetry scene, if you can believe that. And I think one of my joys is working out how that fits together in that context. That kind of moving away from any Christianese and that kind of stuff, and really embracing and thinking through kind of some of my beliefs and how they can be reflected on and engaged with, and how they can be put to people as this welcoming kind of thing. But definitely my Christianity and my creativity come together simply even in the fact of God being a creative God and making us in His image to create in that way.
In the beginning, God created.
God created, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So do you find that when you try to deliver these messages, and obviously some of them might be controversial on political topics and that sort of stuff, if you chose to just, say, write a newspaper article or just do a lecture or whatever, do you find that there's a different reception when you deliver those sort of messages in a more creative way? Yeah,
I think there is. I think poetry and the stuff that I do, performance poetry, it kind of goes beyond just the head kind of cognition thing, which is what the papers and lectures and stuff really hit at. And really the heart of poetry is about evoking something, evoking a response from people, from the audience that you're communicating to. And so with my poetry, when I get to do that, and it's like that evoking often of a dissonance or maybe that's not right in the world or something, it's, for me, that's what's actually going to change people and bring transformation, is the uncomfortable feelings, not just the head recognition that something might be wrong with the world, but this actually hurts to think about it in that way. I think that kind of hurt is what can lead to intentional change.
And do you get feedback from your audiences that's what's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've just started a tour at the moment and are up here touring for a few days, and even last night and the night before just had a bunch of people coming up saying the stuff that we were sharing was bringing them to tears about the reality of the world and their place in the world, and kind of filling them with an angst, but also a hope, as to what they could do.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Joel, I have to ask on behalf of the grandmas out there in particular, what's with the hair?
My grandma would ask that every time I saw her.
Did you just forget to do it for a while, or what?
I did. Well, the last haircut that I actually ever had was was the haircut for my wedding. So that was like 11 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Which was a little bit, So I've forgotten for a long time, therefore, to have a haircut. But it's just my look. It has been for a little while.
Obviously, there are young people in your audience who are looking up to you, seeing what you're doing, and thinking, "Wow, I have a gift." And do they come up to you and sort of talk to you about their gifts and dreams and stuff like that? What sort of tips or advice do you give them?
Yeah, a lot of them do, and I run a lot of workshops and stuff in schools and all over the place, working with young people who are kind of just discovering their creativity. And one of the things I always say is that we're all creative.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, we're all creative. We may not be all artistic poets, but in terms of taking something that is inside and letting it manifest on the outside, taking something that inspires us, that is beautiful, that is...
So we're all expressive, you could say another way.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things I often say to kids coming up is, don't focus on trying to be a good, amazing artist. Simply focus on trying to express and kind of vulnerably and authentically express who you are. Because it's in that, I think it's in the vulnerability and the authentic expression, that's where the best creativity comes out of. Not out of any tips and tools and things like that, but it's simply someone being willing to, in kind of our very shallow surface level society, someone being willing to go there and to open themselves up and say, this is me, and express that through their creativity. So one of the phrases I always say to young people is, the scribblings in your journals are the words the world needs to hear.
Wow.
That if they can just believe in that these writings can actually change lives, and when they start kind of expressing their own story, it's always the case that someone hears their story in their story.
Wow.
And kind of, cool. That's where life transformation often happens.
Hey, well, thanks so much, Joel. It has been real. It's been really good.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. Hey, stay with us, because straight after this break, Joel is going to do one of his performance poems for us. Look forward to it.